A single gunshot echoed across the dusty plains of Sweetwater Creek, Texas, as Katherine Thompson stumbled down the dirt road, clutching her younger brother's hand with one arm and a small bundle of possessions with the other. The year was 1876, and the West was as unforgiving as the scorching July sun beating down upon their bowed heads. Katherine, or Kate as everyone called her, had just buried her parents after a swift and merciless bout of typhoid fever, had claimed them both within days of each other. "I'm hungry, Kate," 6-year-old Samuel whimpered, his hollow cheeks and sunken eyes evidence of the 4 days they'd been traveling with barely enough food to survive. "I know, darling," Kate whispered, her own stomach twisting with hunger pangs. At 22, she had never imagined she would be her brother's sole protector, wandering through frontier towns with nothing but $3 to her name and the clothes on their backs. "We're going to reach town soon, I promise." The settlement of Riverdale appeared on the horizon like a mirage, a cluster of wooden buildings shimmering in the heat. Kate adjusted her threadbare bonnet and straightened her shoulders. Her once fine blue dress, now covered in trail dust and sweat, had belonged to her mother. She pulled Samuel closer as they approached the main street. The town bustled with activity horses tied to hitching posts, men in dusty hats moving purposefully between the saloon and general store, women with baskets hurrying to complete errands before the heat of the day became unbearable. Kate felt the stares as they walked down the street, a young woman and small boy clearly not from around these parts, their exhaustion evident in every step. Outside the general store, a small girl sat huddled against the wall, her thin arms wrapped around her knees, eyes following passers-by with a desperate hunger. No one seemed to notice her, or perhaps they had simply grown accustomed to her presence. Kate paused, her heart constricting at the sight. "Wait here, Sam," she murmured, leading him to a nearby bench. Kate approached the merchant selling bread from a cart. With trembling hands, she counted out precious coins, almost half of what remained of their money, and purchased a small loaf. Her own stomach protested loudly, but she turned away from the cart and walked directly to the little girl. "Here," Kate said softly, kneeling beside the child. "You look hungry." The girl, no more than 7 or 8, stared at the bread with wide, disbelieving eyes before snatching it and tearing into it with the ferocity of someone who hadn't eaten in days. Kate smiled sadly, recognizing that desperate hunger. "Not so fast, little one. You'll make yourself sick," she cautioned gently. "Ain't nobody ever just given me something before?" The girl mumbled between bites, crumbs falling onto her ragged dress. Kate was about to respond when a deep voice came from behind her. "That's mighty kind of you, miss." She turned to find herself looking up at a tall man with broad shoulders, his face partially hidden beneath the brim of a well-worn Stetson. When he tilted his head, she caught a glimpse of striking blue eyes that contrasted with his sun-bronzed skin and the dark stubble along his jaw. "Especially considering you look like you could use that bread yourself," he added, his gaze taking in her thin frame and the dark circles under her eyes. Kate straightened, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "I've gone hungry before. I'll survive." The man studied her for a moment, then looked at Samuel waiting anxiously on the bench, and back to the little girl devouring the bread. His expression softened, revealing a gentleness that seemed at odds with his rugged appearance. "Name's Owen Hayes," he said, extending a calloused hand. "I run the cattle ranch just north of town." "Katherine Thompson," she replied, briefly accepting his handshake. "And that's my brother, Samuel." Owen nodded, then crouched down to the level of the little girl. "And who might you be, miss?" "Mary," the child replied cautiously. "Mary Wilson." "Well, Mary Wilson," Owen said, his voice gentle but serious, "do you have folks looking for you?" Mary shook her head, her eyes downcast. "Pa died in the mines last winter. Ma took sick after." Owen and Kate exchanged a glance that conveyed shared understanding of the harsh realities of frontier life. "Miss Thompson," Owen said, standing to his full height again, "I'd like to invite you, your brother, and young Mary here to join me for a proper meal. My ranch is just a short ride from here." Kate hesitated, years of proper upbringing warning against accepting invitations from strange men. Yet something in Owen's earnest expression calmed her fears. "I couldn't impose," she began. "It's no imposition," he interrupted. "Besides, I meant what I said about your kindness. Plenty of folks would have walked right past this child, saving what little they had for themselves." His eyes held hers steadily. "I'll feed you both, all three of you, for as long as you need." There was something in his words that suggested more than just a meal. A promise, perhaps, or the beginning of one. "Come on," he continued, his voice softer now. "My wagon's just down the street. After you've had a good meal, we can figure out what comes next." Kate looked at Samuel's hopeful face, then down at Mary still clutching the remainder of the bread, and finally back at Owen Hayes with his honest blue eyes and steady presence. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. We accept your invitation." The ride to the Hayes Ranch was bumpy but mercifully short. Owen handled the reins with practiced ease, occasionally pointing out landmarks or sharing brief stories about the area. Samuel, initially shy, gradually warmed to the rancher's friendly demeanor, especially when Owen mentioned the new foal born just days earlier. "Can I see it?" Samuel asked, the first spark of childlike excitement Kate had seen in weeks lighting his eyes. "Course you can," Owen replied with a warm smile. "Might even let you help name it." Kate watched the exchange with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. Owen Hayes seemed genuinely kind, but life had taught her that kindness often came with conditions. She wondered what his might be. As they crested a small hill, the Hayes Ranch came into view, a sturdy two-story house with a wide porch, several outbuildings, and corrals where horses grazed peacefully. It was modest compared to some of the grand ranches Kate had heard about, but it was clearly well-maintained and prosperous. "It's not much," Owen said, misinterpreting her silence for disappointment. "But it's home. It's beautiful," Kate replied honestly. After weeks of uncertainty, the sight of such stability was almost overwhelming. Owen pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the house, where an older woman emerged onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mrs. Abernathy," Owen called out, "we've got guests for dinner." The housekeeper raised an eyebrow but nodded, her expression softening when she spotted the children. "I'll set extra places," she said, disappearing back inside. Owen helped Kate down from the wagon, his hand strong and steady as it grasped hers. "Mrs. Abernathy's been with me since I inherited the ranch from my uncle 5 years ago. She keeps everything running smooth, and she cooks the best stew this side of the Mississippi." The mention of stew made Kate's mouth water, and she could see Samuel and Mary perking up at the prospect of a hot meal. True to Owen's word, Mrs. Abernathy had prepared a feast beef stew rich with vegetables, freshly baked bread, and apple pie for dessert. Kate watched in quiet amazement as Samuel ate 3 helpings, color returning to his pale cheeks with each bite. Mary ate with the caution of someone unused to regular meals, carefully tucking a roll into her pocket when she thought no one was looking. "There's plenty more," Owen said gently, noticing the girl's secretive movement. "And you'll have breakfast in the morning too. No need to save for later." Mary looked startled, then shamefaced, but Owen simply smiled and passed her the butter. After dinner, while Mrs. Abernathy showed the children to rooms where they could rest, Owen invited Kate to join him on the porch. The evening was cooler, a gentle breeze stirring the air as they settled into rocking chairs side by side. "I suspect there's a story behind how you and your brother came to be walking into Riverdale looking half-starved," Owen said after a comfortable silence. Kate hesitated, then decided that honesty was the least she could offer in exchange for his generosity. She told him about their parents' sudden illness, about the debts that had forced them to sell the family home in St. Louis, and about their journey west in search of Kate's mother's cousin who had supposedly settled somewhere near Dallas. "We never found him," she concluded. "The address we had was outdated. That was 2 weeks ago, and we've been making our way from town to town ever since, looking for work or someone who might know him." Owen listened without interrupting, his eyes occasionally meeting hers with an understanding that required no words. "And what skills do you have, Miss Thompson?" he asked when she had finished. "I was trained as a teacher," Kate replied, "and I can sew, cook, keep accounts, whatever is necessary." She straightened her shoulders. "I'm not afraid of hard work, Mr. Hayes. I just need an opportunity." Owen nodded thoughtfully. "As it happens, Riverdale is in desperate need of a schoolteacher. The last one left 6 months ago to get married. The town council's been searching for a replacement." Kate's heart quickened. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. The position comes with a small cabin behind the schoolhouse and a modest salary." He paused, his expression growing more serious. "But that still leaves the question of young Mary." "I could take her in," Kate said without hesitation. "If I have the teaching position and a place to live, I could care for her along with Samuel." Owen studied her for a long moment. "You'd do that? Take in an orphan when you're barely getting by yourself?" "Someone has to," Kate said simply. Owen's gaze held a new respect. "You're an extraordinary woman, Katherine Thompson." The compliment brought warmth to her cheeks, and she looked away, toward the darkening pastures where cattle moved like shadows against the twilight. "The teaching position won't be official until the council meets next week," Owen continued. "In the meantime, you and the children are welcome to stay here. There's plenty of room, and Mrs. Abernathy would appreciate the company." "Why are you doing this?" Kate asked suddenly. "You don't know us." Owen was quiet for a moment. "5 years ago I was where you are now, alone, with nowhere to go. My uncle took me in, gave me purpose, eventually left me this ranch. I reckon it's my turn to pass that kindness along." He paused, then added softly, "Besides, not many people would give their last bit of bread to a stranger. That says something about a person's character." Kate felt tears threatening and blinked them away. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need for thanks," Owen replied. "We help each other out here. That's how we survive." As darkness fell completely, they sat in companionable silence, the rhythmic creaking of the rocking chairs and the distant lowing of cattle the only sounds. For the first time in weeks, Kate felt the knot of fear in her chest begin to loosen. Perhaps there was hope for them after all. The next morning, Kate woke to the unfamiliar sensation of a soft bed beneath her and warm sunlight streaming through curtained windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was, panic seizing her until the events of the previous day came rushing back. Relief flooded through her as she remembered Owen Hayes' kindness and the prospect of the teaching position. After dressing in her travel-worn clothes, Kate found Mrs. Abernathy in the kitchen, already preparing breakfast. The older woman greeted her with a nod and handed her a cup of coffee. "The little ones are still sleeping," Mrs. Abernathy informed her. "Lord knows they needed it. That boy of yours was skin and bones." "He's not usually so thin," Kate said defensively. "We've had a difficult journey." Mrs. Abernathy's expression softened. "I know, dear. Mr. Hayes told me about your circumstances." She hesitated, then added, "He's a good man, Mr. Hayes, best I've known. If he's offering help, you'd be wise to take it." "I intend to," Kate assured her. "But I want to earn my keep. Is there anything I can do to help around here?" Mrs. Abernathy looked surprised, then pleased. "Most visitors don't offer to work. But yes, There's plenty to be done if you're willing. For the next week, Kate fell into a rhythm at the Hayes Ranch. Each morning, she helped Mrs. Abernathy with breakfast and household chores. Samuel quickly became Owen's shadow, following him around the ranch and absorbing everything he could about horses and cattle. Mary was more reserved, but gradually began to open up, especially to Kate, who spent evenings teaching both children to read better and write their letters. Owen himself was often busy with ranch work, but he made time each evening to join them for dinner and sit with Kate on the porch afterward. Their conversations ranged from books they had read to their hopes for the future, and with each passing day, Kate found herself looking forward to these quiet moments more and more. The town council is meeting tomorrow, Owen mentioned one evening, about a week after their arrival. I've already spoken to several members about you. They're eager to meet the woman who might finally reopen the schoolhouse. Kate's stomach fluttered with nervous anticipation. Do you think they'll approve my appointment? I'd bet my best horse on it, Owen replied with a confidence that made her smile. They're desperate for a teacher, and from what I've seen of how you work with Samuel and Mary, you're perfect for the job. The next day, Kate borrowed a dress from Mrs. Abernathy, altered hastily the night before to fit her slimmer frame, and rode into town with Owen for the council meeting. She had prepared a brief speech about her qualifications and teaching philosophy, and despite her nerves, she delivered it with a poise that impressed the 5 men who comprised Riverdale's leadership. Well, Miss Thompson, Mayor Wilson said when she had finished, I believe I speak for all of us when I say we'd be honored to have you as Riverdale's new schoolteacher. The relief and joy that flooded through Kate made her knees weak. She had done it, secured a position, a home, a future for herself and the children. The council discussed the details: her salary, modest but sufficient, the condition of the schoolhouse and adjacent living quarters, in need of some repair but habitable, and the expected start of classes, in 3 weeks, to give families time to prepare. As they rode back to the ranch, Kate could hardly contain her excitement. I can't believe it, she said, turning to Owen with a radiant smile. 3 weeks ago, I thought we might not survive, and now you're Riverdale's new schoolteacher. Owen finished for her, his own smile warm with pride. Though I'll miss having you and the children at the ranch. Kate's happiness dimmed slightly at the thought of leaving. We've imposed on your hospitality long enough. It hasn't been an imposition, Owen said quickly. In fact, it's been the opposite. The house hasn't felt so alive in years. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of the bond that had formed so quickly yet felt so natural. Perhaps, Owen ventured carefully, you might consider staying at the ranch a bit longer, just until the schoolhouse is properly repaired. The cabin needs a new roof and some work on the stove before it's truly suitable for the 3 of you. Kate knew she should decline, maintain her independence now that she had secured employment. But the thought of a few more weeks at the Hayes Ranch, with its comfort and safety and Owen's company, was too tempting to resist. If you're sure it wouldn't be an imposition, she replied. I'm sure, Owen said, his relief evident. The next 2 weeks passed in a flurry of activity. Kate divided her time between helping at the ranch and preparing the schoolhouse for the upcoming term. Owen enlisted several of his ranch hands to repair the school's roof and fix the broken windows, while Kate cleaned years of dust from the interior and organized the meager supply of books and slates. The small cabin behind the schoolhouse gradually transformed as well. Owen personally installed a new cook stove and repaired the leaking roof. Mrs. Abernathy contributed curtains for the windows and quilts for the beds, while the townswomen, excited about the new teacher, brought housewarming gifts of preserved fruits and hand-sewn linens. Throughout it all, Kate found herself growing increasingly attached to Owen Hayes. It wasn't just his generosity or his kindness toward the children, though both moved her deeply. It was the quiet conversations they shared, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the respect with which he treated everyone from his most senior ranch hand to little Mary. It was the way he listened when she spoke, truly listened, as if her thoughts and dreams mattered to him. One evening, about a week before Kate and the children were set to move into the cabin, Owen invited her to ride with him to a special spot on his property. Samuel and Mary were engrossed in a checkers game with Mrs. Abernathy, who shooed Kate away with a knowing smile that made her blush. They rode in comfortable silence, the setting sun painting the landscape in hues of gold and crimson. Owen led them to a hill overlooking a bend in the creek that gave Sweetwater its name, where a single oak tree provided shade. He spread a blanket beneath the tree and invited Kate to sit. "I found this place my first week on the ranch," Owen explained, settling beside her. "I come here to think, or just to enjoy the quiet." "It's beautiful," Kate murmured, taking in the panoramic view of rolling pastures and distant hills. "Kate," Owen began, using her preferred name for the first time, "I've been meaning to ask you something." Her heart quickened at his serious tone. "Yes. These past weeks, having you and the children at the ranch, has changed things. Changed me." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "I know we haven't known each other long, but I feel like I've been waiting for you my whole life without realizing it." Kate's breath caught in her throat as Owen took her hand gently in his. "I'm not asking for anything right now except the chance to court you properly," he continued. "I want to do this right, give you time to be sure, but I wanted you to know that my feelings for you are serious, and that when I said I'd feed you both forever, I meant it in every way." Tears welled in Kate's eyes as emotion overwhelmed her. "Owen," she whispered, "I feel the same way. These weeks have been the happiest of my life, despite everything we've been through to get here." Owen's face lit up with hope. "So you'll allow me to court you?" "Yes," Kate replied without hesitation. "Yes, I will." His smile was radiant as he raised her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. It was a small gesture, proper and restrained, but it sent warmth cascading through her entire being. They stayed on the hilltop until the first stars appeared, talking about their hopes and dreams, sharing stories from their pasts, and tentatively planning a future that might include them both. When they finally rode back to the ranch, Kate felt as if she were floating, her heart fuller than she had ever thought possible. The next few months unfolded like a dream. Kate threw herself into her role as Riverdale's teacher, quickly earning the respect of both students and parents with her dedication and creative teaching methods. Samuel thrived in school and spent weekends at the ranch, where Owen was teaching him to ride. Mary, officially under Kate's guardianship now, blossomed with stability and care, revealing a quick mind and artistic talent that Kate encouraged at every opportunity. Owen courted Kate with old-fashioned propriety that endeared him to the townspeople. He attended church with her on Sundays, joined her for picnic lunches during school recesses, and invited her and the children to the ranch every weekend. Their growing relationship became the talk of Riverdale, with most betting on when, not if, the handsome rancher would propose to the pretty schoolteacher. That moment came on Christmas Eve, 6 months after their first meeting. Owen had invited Kate, Samuel, and Mary to the ranch for the holiday, and Mrs. Abernathy had outdone herself with the feast and decorations. After dinner, when the children were distracted with their modest gifts, Owen led Kate to the porch, where a sprig of mistletoe hung from the ceiling. "Katherine Thompson," he said, taking both her hands in his, "these past months have been the happiest of my life. You've brought light and laughter into my home and my heart." He dropped to one knee, withdrawing a small velvet box from his pocket. "I promised to feed you both forever, and I meant it. Will you marry me and make this ranch your home, our home, permanently?" The ring inside the box was simple but beautiful, a gold band with a single pearl. Kate's vision blurred with tears as she looked from the ring to Owen's hopeful face. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Owen, I will marry you." His whoop of joy brought Samuel and Mary running, and when they saw the ring on Kate's finger, they joined in the celebration with their own exclamations of delight. "Does this mean we'll live at the ranch?" Samuel asked excitedly. "It does," Owen confirmed, lifting the boy onto his shoulders. "And that you'll officially be my family. All of us." Mary asked tentatively, her small hand finding Kate's. "All of us?" Owen assured her, crouching down to her level. "In fact, if it's all right with you and Kate, I'd like to adopt you and Samuel legally. Make you Hayes in name as well as in heart." Mary's eyes widened, and she looked up at Kate for confirmation. "It's true," Kate said softly. "Owen and I have discussed it. If you both agree, we want to be your parents in every way." Samuel's enthusiastic yes was immediate, but Mary took a moment longer, her young face solemn as she considered. "I'd be your daughter?" she asked finally. For real," Owen promised. "Forever and always." Mary threw her arms around him then, and Kate watched through happy tears as the man she loved embraced the little girl who had brought them together. They were married in the spring of 1877, in Riverdale's small church filled to bursting with townspeople and ranch hands. Kate wore a cream-colored gown that Mrs. Abernathy and several town women had helped her make, with Mary as her flower girl and Samuel proudly carrying the rings. After the ceremony, the entire town celebrated with a feast and dance that lasted well into the night. The adoption was finalized a month later, with Samuel and Mary officially becoming Hayes' children. Kate continued teaching until the end of the school term, after which she reluctantly resigned to devote herself to the ranch and her growing family. A new baby was on the way, conceived on their wedding night and due the following winter. On the one-year anniversary of the day they met, Owen took Kate back to the hilltop where he had first declared his intentions. The oak tree was in full leaf, providing shade as they spread a blanket for a picnic lunch. "I was thinking about that day in town," Owen said as they watched Samuel and Mary playing by the creek below. "When you gave your bread to a starving child even though you were hungry yourself." Kate smiled at the memory. "I never imagined where that simple act would lead." "I knew then," Owen admitted. "The moment I saw your kindness, I knew you were someone special." He placed his hand gently on her rounded belly, where their child grew. "And I meant what I said that day. I'll feed you all forever." "You've done that and more," Kate said softly, covering his hand with hers. "You've given us a home, a family, a future." Owen leaned in to kiss her tenderly. "And you've given me everything I never knew I was missing." As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the Texas sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Kate Hayes looked at her husband and children and marveled at how completely her life had transformed in just 1 year. From desperate wandering to profound belonging, from starvation to abundance, from loneliness to love. And it had all begun with a simple act of kindness, a loaf of bread offered to a starving child, and a cowboy's promise to feed them both forever. A promise that had blossomed into the greatest love story of her life.